So I have some questions written down here, but it's really all about your questions. So we'll have a quick introduction from the two new guys on the panel, tell you a bit about their companies, and then I'll be happy to take your questions from the floor. Nikon, do you want to go first?
I suppose I have to turn on the power for that. I'm Nikunj Mehta. I'm the founder and CEO of Falconry. We've started Falconry with the single intention of democratizing machine learning and making it suitable for broad adoption in the industrial world. With Falconry, you can perform machine learning tasks with the same ease and simplicity that you perform voice recognition and face recognition tasks, either online or on your phone. We've made it automated and scalable so that you can apply it in a variety of different scenarios with different levels of complexity, all the way from a 65 hertz turbine to a once-a-day pass-through vehicle monitoring a railroad. I just end it here by saying you can start using Falconry right now. It's accessible to everybody. It's available through a simple Falconry account you can create online. No credit card required, no questions asked.
Usman, do you want to tell us a little
Hi,
bit?
I'm Chija. I am VP Market Development and responsible for revenue at Spark Cognition, and including partnership with IBM Watson. Spark Cognition is applying cognitive analytics to the space of industrial internet. We are focused on reliability, safety, and security of the industrial internet. It's been around for 3 years. Have several large clients across oil and gas, energy and manufacturing, and delivering. The main focus is to augment the experts in the industry, to help take away the cognitive burden, to help them make better decisions and faster decisions.
Okay, thank you. So, questions, anybody? Yes, sir. There's a microphone right there, just a second.
For Michael. I'll just be really loud. When you compare what you did manually with what you did with Falconry, were there any surprises in the results or the analysis? Maybe something deeper that you never would have realized prior to that?
Absolutely. Pleasant surprises. We absolutely saw a few conditions in the text data set we gave blind to Falconry that we had already analyzed over a period of 12 months. And there were at least 3 conditions that had reasonable percentages of occurrence. We haven't actually correlated those back to actual physical issues yet. We're still working on that. But those are the kinds of needles in a haystack things that we anticipate seeing more of in the future.
Thank you.
Anybody else, please? Must be more questions. Okay, I have one. Michael, I'll start with you, as you happen to be right in the end, and then we'll move down. That's right. It's good to pick on you. Obviously, choosing the technology solution is an important part of your total product. I mean, what other things have you learned along the way that you would do differently if you were starting over, perhaps? What did you learn about the process, the learning process along the way?
From the technology
Sure.
side? Yeah, so
Do you want a microphone?
yeah, I can do that. I came. Is that working? Yeah. I came on board at Railcom in April of last year. So this project had already had a number of months of data collection and doing sort of the brute force analytics approach. What I would have done differently would be to immediately go and look for seriously technology solutions. I've spent a lot of my career, the last 5-6 years, in IoT, in analytics and big data problems, and knew that this kind of technology is out there. The devil is in the details, and it's one of those things that a lot of companies claim that they have technology that can provide solutions for this. Waveform data, like what we were doing, is the more complex end of the spectrum of data. Mm-hmm. And Falconry just happened to be coming out with a solution at about the time we had the problem. But yeah, the thing I would have done differently would be just to start with automated predictive analytics.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rob, how about you? Can you talk to some things that you learn along the way in the process that you might offer as advice to people?
Sure, I'd probably echo a little bit what Mike says. I would say as a company, we're not very good at partnering. We like to engineer and do stuff ourselves. That's kind of in our DNA, and because of that, it's not a cost issue as much as it is a speed issue for us. Mm-hmm. With things developing so quickly in this space, we were really struggling to move with speed and commercialize with speed. So by working with Spark Cognition and really working and leveraging as a partnership, we were able to take advanced, a company that's really advanced this technology in just the last 5 years and really take us to another level very quickly. And that's core to what we were trying to do. And I would say, it's definitely something we're trying to change in our makeup about how we partner with external technology providers and go a lot faster, mainly for speed in this space.
So really about time to market for your solutions. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Our R&D this year is tripling from what it was just last year again. Mm-hmm. And I routinely get discussion with our chief R&D officer about cost, and I continue to tell him it has no bearing whatsoever really around cost. It's resources and how quickly we can move. So that's really our challenge.
Okay, interesting. Thanks. Yes, sir. Right in the middle. Okay.
I would like to hear from the users and the vendors on this. A recurring comment I've heard today in other sessions is that because of these new companies coming into this space, automation space, they're bringing technology to rate so fast that the users are in this position of going, wow, how do I adapt, understand, adopt this, and receive this technology? It's a challenge out there. So curious to hear from the users about their experience in it, but also the suppliers. What are you experiencing with people trying to absorb this rocket scientist great stuff that you're making?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. I'm actually going to start with the suppliers. Usman, let's start right down the end with you.
It's a great question, and we learned it the hard way as well. So the idea is to work with the clients, and what Rob mentioned, have a collaborative approach and try to hide the math behind the problem. So can we demonstrate and provide the evidence of what the analytics have done in a way that is consumable by the people who have been using traditional software? So that's the pain you have to go through. If you expose the AI and the cognitive algorithms to, and even in the sales pitch, we don't talk about that. It's about how can we help you and provide the evidence in a way that you're used to. So initially, all our dashboards are custom to, we work with mostly Fortune 500 clients, so we work with them to figure out how the dashboard should look like, what their pain points is. So it's the initial engagement is always a very collaborative effort, and we learned it very quickly that that's the way to go, and talk their language and have a very open dialogue about what to see.
I'll offer another perspective. What we've tried to do is look for people who are motivated to make improvements beyond the current state of technology would allow them to. And that has meant partners of ours who are service providers, value-added resellers, who are looking to bring technology to a new level in an organization. I'll give you an example. There's a power plant that is burning coal, and this is in East Asia, generating about 10% of the national power need. That company is using a standard historian, programmable logic controllers, human HMIs, and so on. And they were finding that they still had many issues that led to downtime, and they could not make incremental improvements alone. There was no way we could directly push them to adopt the technology. On the other hand, somebody who knew their business well and understood their users well connected falconry through to them. There's no avoiding the fact that some organizations and some people are simply not ready for it at this time. So there's no way that technology can push its way through that. And we try not to spend too much of our time banging our head on the wall. Now, the second thing we've done is we've looked at people who already manage their data. These could be DBAs, these could be the process engineers, and provide them another perspective. You're used to looking your data through metrics. What if I were to convert that two-dimensional view of hundreds upon 100 metrics and turn it into a simple one-dimensional view of color that goes from left to right, like time goes from left to right? Does that help you do your work? Because then you can see from the color what it is that you would do as reaction. And so it has been a two-pronged approach. I believe the most important aspect of this is targeting the right organizations or the right groups of users, but more importantly, appealing directly to the intuition of the user. And visualization is a great way to do that.
Thanks. Rob, how about you? What do you see helping people to get on board with new technologies?
Yeah, I think the adoption side is has really been critical for us, especially with major oil and gas, petrochemical type customers, and then this is kind of at their operations level, right? Because we're into equipment and how they handle local operator maintenance, reliability practices, and there's kind of a huge adoption change management process there. So even while we can provide the advanced monitoring capability, or now maybe even more notification around failure modes, is that operator, even though he gets the alert, he gets the notification, are they really going to do anything different than they did before? And implementing that with our customers, we've really had to continue on with a reliability partnership type program, which is what we've used for the past 20 years. And applying these technologies with that, where we really work hand in hand with them at that operator level, with their reliability engineering level, and work the change management process together to really get the value from the technology. Right. That's kind of, it hasn't, just applying the technology itself is only part of the step.
Right, thank you. Michael?
Yeah, for me, it all starts with pain. So basically, if you have pain, you'll find a solution. Because you're right, at the end of the day, technology is changing so fast in our personal lives and in the business world. If you have pain, figure out what the requirements are to solve that pain, and then go out and do some proof of concepts. Find out what technology is there today that can help. Maybe it doesn't completely help at the time, so you kind of fit where you're going, what your requirements are, with, in this case, the vendor's roadmap and sort of strategy. Make sure that they're aligned, and then just do it. Hop on board, get it done. I think there's also kind of an interpersonal dimension to it too. At the end of the day, we're kind of on the cutting, bleeding edge, and you have to have a good relationship with, in this case, your technology vendor, especially if you're doing something right at the edge. So that's what I look for as well.
Thank you.
Starts with pain.
Thank you. Other questions? Sure.
This is a bit of a follow-up to what you just answered. You talked more about operational changes, but usually when you bring dramatic new technology in, there's a lot of cultural impacts to the organization. I'm curious if you can talk about both the positive and negative impacts you may have seen. I'm sure there were some responses that weren't spectacular from end users, and also maybe the difference of people who were completely opposed in the beginning, and then in the end ended up being maybe possibly big champions, which is something you tend to see a lot of times.
That's a good question. Thank you. Who'd like to jump in first there? Go on there, Michael. We'll go the other way.
Because I do deal with the railroading space, which is an old school technology, and there are lots of executives who have climbed the ranks, into their positions, starting literally working in a yard, switching trains. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the world is changing so quickly, and some people get it, and some people don't. And eventually, those who don't are going to be, filtered out. They retire, whatever. So my job is to try to find the ones in the railroads that get it, and form a partnership with them, and start to make progress. And sometimes you run into those brick walls. There's nothing you can do about it except wait and keep picking away at it until someone comes on board that gets it.
I'll offer sort of a complementary perspective since we work often with product developers. What we found is that users of ours are product managers, process engineers, and in cases, software developers as well. For them to be able to do this on their own has meant that they've suddenly realized they do not need to be dependent on somebody else. That gives them a feeling of empowerment and an ability to bring change that was previously only available in a scheduled project with an assigned budget. And so I feel that that level of empowerment is going to produce a lot more effect than the kind of large budget expenses. I mean, it's the surreptitious experiences that actually change industries. Planned changes are very rare to change industries. They often lead to massive failures.
Very interesting story. One of the largest utilities, I made the first call to them, and I knew the head of prognostics, and he forwarded me the guy to talk to, and the guy came on the phone and he said, look, I'm talking to you because my boss told me to do. I'm covered. And 15 months fast forward, he is the biggest champion in the organization, so which is really rewarding to see. But that does happen. But going back to the whole process of explaining what you're doing, why you're doing it, and understanding their pain points, and taking the time to exactly explain how you're going to do it and what are the benefits in it for them. That has worked pretty well for us, but we do a lot of those folks who are, the show you the Heinz men up front and then turn out to be great champions. And pretty much every case we've had, this is an extreme one, but every case we've had, there are folks who are opposed to why try something new when things are working, but they have turned out to be great champions, and that's quite rewarding, and we've had very good success rate in turning POCs into full deployments.
Great, thank you. I think we probably have time for one more question. Michael.
So my question is for Rob and Mike, the users. So both of you have remote sites, and I'm wondering the role of edge analytics or computing out by the wayside or the pump, the role of that for your solution, all the data that you're gathering. Are you cleansing it at the edge? Are you doing any kind of analytics at the edge and then feeding it into the machine learning, or how does that work?
Rob, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can take the first crack at that. I would say we have built some edge intelligence into the data acquisition side to do some filtering and analysis at that level. It also relates to how much data we're then kind of moving at the plant level and up to the cloud level. So we have done some work there. So a lot of our devices we consider smart devices at that data acquisition level. But the bulk of what we're really doing in predictive analytics, the more advanced machine learning, we are doing either at a central level, at a plant level, or at the cloud level. And so that higher capability today for us is predominantly at those levels. We do have some of our first development programs going on where we are looking at embedding that capability in advanced machine learning predictive at a chip level and embedding that in the products. We have literally just the first couple R&D efforts in that area. So, we do see the use case over time to be able to embed all the way down at the chip level and right at the piece of equipment, and some looks to be some beneficial capabilities as that happens. But I would say, our 5-year view is heavy to doing the predictive analytics and that capability at, either at a plant level or at the cloud level today.
Yeah, another great question. And, we're in the early days right now, and particularly with the type of fairly primitive electromechanical devices that we're trying to instrument, it's all being done up in the cloud. But absolutely, the vision and sort of the strategy is to prepare for when that intelligence gets pushed down into the device itself. And there's no distinction between the device and sort of the sensors, accompanying that device. It's all one unit. And, there are early examples of that even in the railroad space. These hot box detectors that I mentioned earlier that measure wheel temperature as the rolling stock goes by. There's some very sophisticated ones now that are doing acoustic analysis and a lot of other things right there in the box and transmitting the results up. So today we're doing everything in the cloud, and then we'll quickly adopt and use the data as it's being done out at the edge, which is where ultimately we'd like it to be done.
Great, thank you. One more question? Sure.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rafael from Cantac from Brazil. I was wondering how far you think we are actually going to take to really bring machine learning to other levels, not just for our predictive maintenance, because this is also very a trend in the industry, but really going on into more deep machine learning, where we could actually have self-operating machines, because today usually the industry just expects like this little magic box where you could actually fill all the inputs and then you have a predictive maintenance schedule and so on. But when we think about more advanced machine learning topics, and when we bring to other scenarios such as safety and other more valuable scenarios where we could actually bring machine learning, so what are the main challenges that we have to face to really bring this technology, not just only for the predictive maintenance, but for the whole other level of industry excellence that we may have with machine learning?
Thanks, it's a great question. Let me just start with Nikunjan and Usman, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Just very quickly, there are autonomous trains that are pulling ore from mines in Australia from very remote locations to a ship terminal. There's no human being on board. So we are beginning to see autonomous systems. Machine learning has a role to play. The more open a system is and exposed to the environment and variability, the harder it is to put it into an autonomous state. Secondly, the more restricted purpose a system is designed for, it means typically that there are very few people using it, and hence does not have the economies of scale to make it autonomous. Cars are a perfect contrast to that.
I like that too. Machine learning is one piece of the automation, right? So the others would be their reasoning algorithms have to improve a little bit, and the whole artificial intelligence field. Machine learning is a small piece, or not a small, but a piece of artificial intelligence. So, and we are getting close to having autonomous factories. Actually, a self-driving car gives you an indication of we are getting very close to having that. I think the two things would be the adoption and also changing the processes to incorporate that, because now you have human beings in the process. So how do you change the process and the factory layouts to enable that? So I think we have to start rethinking, but I think technology is pretty much there to make it totally autonomous.
Okay, thank you. So that, unfortunately, is all we have time for. I have three things just as we wrap up. Firstly, can you just rate the session on the mobile app on your phone, please, real quick before you leave? Secondly, we're due for a coffee break now, back in here at 4 o'clock for the analytics session where you'll see me again. And finally, thanks to our panel and speakers.